Sophie Carter had exactly $5 and 1 week to find a fake boyfriend for her family's Christmas dinner. When Jake Mitchell accepted her offer, she thought her problems were solved. She had no idea they were just beginning. Before we dive into this incredible story, please drop a comment below telling me where in the world you're watching from, and later give this story a rating from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. The smell of burnt coffee and bacon grease clung to Sophie Carter's uniform like a second skin. She stood behind the counter of the Magnolia Diner, her feet screaming in protest after 6 straight hours on the linoleum floor. The December afternoon sun streamed through the windows, casting long shadows across the red vinyl booths that had seen better days. "Order up, Sophie." Charlie, the cook, rang the bell for the 3rd time, his weathered face creased with impatience. Sophie grabbed the plates, 2 chicken fried steaks with gravy that looked like it could resurrect the dead or kill them, depending on your perspective, and hustled them to table 7. The elderly couple sitting there had been coming to the Magnolia every Saturday for 20 years, and they always left exactly $3 as a tip, like clockwork, like everything else in Sophie's predictable, suffocating life. "Here you go, Mr. and Mrs. Henderson," Sophie said, forcing her customer service smile into place. The one that said, "I'm happy to serve you," when really it said, "My feet are dying and my bank account is flatlining." "Thank you, sweetie." Mrs. Henderson patted her hand with papery fingers. "You look tired. Are you taking care of yourself?" Sophie's smile became more genuine. "Doing my best, Ma'am." As she walked back to the counter, her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She pulled it out, already knowing what she'd find. Another message in the family group chat. Her stomach dropped as she read it. "Mom, Sophie, can't wait to see you and Daniel at the Christmas gathering. Your Aunt Martha is dying to meet him. She's making her famous pecan pie. Aunt Linda, I want to hear all about how you two met. It sounds so romantic. Cousin Jessica, finally, someone in this family found a decent guy. Can't wait to meet Mr. Perfect." Sophie's hand trembled as she shoved the phone back into her pocket. Daniel, her fake boyfriend, the one she'd invented 3 months ago during a moment of weakness when her family wouldn't stop asking why she was still single at 27. It had started innocently enough, a casual mention of someone special to get her mother off her back. Then she posted a few strategically cropped photos on social media. A man's hand holding hers at the San Antonio River Walk, actually her gay best friend Marcus. A blurry shot of them at the Alamo, a random tourist she'd photobombed, and a romantic dinner table for 2 at Pisano's. She'd eaten both meals herself and cried into the tiramisu. Now the lie had snowballed into an avalanche that was about to bury her alive. The Christmas gathering was in 1 week, 7 days. 168 hours to either come clean or perform a miracle. "You look like you're about to throw up," Marcus said, sliding onto a stool at the counter. He worked at the bookstore across the street and always took his afternoon break at the Magnolia. "What did your family do now?" Sophie poured him a coffee without asking. "They want to meet Daniel." "Your imaginary boyfriend, Daniel?" "He's not imaginary. He's just temporarily non-existent." Marcus snorted into his coffee. "Soph, honey, that's literally the definition of imaginary." "I'm screwed, Marcus, completely screwed." Sophie leaned against the counter, fighting the urge to bang her head against it. "My entire family thinks I'm bringing this perfect guy to Christmas. My mom has been bragging to everyone at her church. Aunt Linda has already started planning our wedding. If I show up alone now, I'll never hear the end of it. It'll be 5 years of, remember when Sophie made up a boyfriend at every single family gathering. So tell them the truth." "I can't." Sophie's voice cracked. "Not after Dad." Marcus's expression softened. They both knew the real reason Sophie had invented Daniel. 6 months ago, her father had passed away suddenly from a heart attack. In his last conversation with Sophie, he'd told her he worried about her being alone, that he wanted to see her happy and settled before he died. She'd promised him she was fine, that she was seeing someone special, that he didn't need to worry. It was the last conversation they'd ever had, and it had been built on a lie. "I just wanted him to die thinking I was okay," Sophie whispered, tears pricking her eyes. "And now I'm trapped in this stupid lie and I don't know how to get out." Marcus reached across the counter and squeezed her hand. "What if you hired someone?" "Hired someone?" "Yeah, like an escort, but not the sexy kind. Just someone to play your boyfriend for one night." Sophie stared at him. That's insane. Is it though? People do it all the time. Fake dates for weddings, family reunions, whatever. It's basically acting. I can't afford an escort, Marcus. I can barely afford my rent. Sophie gestured around the diner. This place pays minimum wage plus tips, and the Magnolia isn't exactly pulling in the high rollers. What if it was cheap, like really cheap? How cheap are we talking? Marcus pulled out his phone and started scrolling. There's this app, TaskRabbit, Fiverr, that kind of thing. People post odd jobs and other people bid on them. I bet someone would do it for, I don't know, $50. Sophie laughed bitterly. I have $37 in my checking account, Marcus. 50 might as well be 5,000. Then offer what you have. Post it and see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is I end up with some creep who thinks fake boyfriend means something very different than what I mean. So be specific in the posting. Make it clear it's just acting. One night, family dinner, no funny business. Marcus was already typing on his phone. Come on, what have you got to lose? Sophie looked around the diner. At the cracked vinyl booths, the flickering fluorescent lights, the life she'd been stuck in since her father died, at the tips jar that never quite filled up enough, at the future that looked exactly like today, and yesterday, and the day before that. Fine, she said, but I'm only offering $5 an hour. That's all I can spare. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. $5? Sophie, that's insane. Nobody's going to... $5 and a free meal. That's my offer. Take it or leave it. 20 minutes later, during her break, Sophie sat in the back office with Marcus's phone, staring at the posting they'd created. Needed, fake boyfriend for family Christmas dinner. Duration, 4-5 hours. Date, December 24th. Location, San Antonio. TX pay, 5 hour plus. Home-cooked meal. I need someone to pretend to be my boyfriend for one night at my family's Christmas gathering. Must be presentable, able to hold a conversation, and willing to pretend to be madly in love with me for a few hours. This is completely legitimate and professional, just acting, nothing weird. Must be comfortable with a large Texas family. Requirements: age 25 to 35, well-groomed, good conversational skills, able to handle my nosy family, 0 creep factor. This is a one-time gig, cash payment at the end of the night. Serious inquiries only. This is the most desperate thing I've ever done, Sophie muttered, her finger hovering over the post button. Just do it, Marcus urged. What's the worst that could happen? Sophie closed her eyes and pressed the button. Her phone buzzed almost immediately. She looked down, expecting spam or some inappropriate message. Instead, she saw a simple response. Jake M. I'll do it. When do we meet to discuss details? Sophie's heart hammered in her chest. She clicked on the profile. No photo, barely any information. Just a 5-star rating from previous odd jobs and a brief description. Reliable, professional, discreet. Someone responded, she whispered. Already? That was like 10 seconds. Marcus leaned over to look. Jake M. sounds normal enough. Or like a serial killer trying to sound normal. Sophie, beggars can't be choosers. And you're definitely a beggar right now. Sophie chewed her lips, staring at the message. This was crazy, absolutely insane. She was about to meet a complete stranger and ask him to lie to her entire family. What could possibly go wrong? Everything, her brain screamed. Everything could go wrong. But what choice did she have? With trembling fingers, she typed back, Tomorrow, 2 p.m. at the Alamo Plaza. I'll be wearing a blue jacket. The response came instantly. See you there. Sophie handed the phone back to Marcus, feeling like she might throw up. What did I just do? You just solved your problem, Marcus said cheerfully. Or created a whole new set of problems. Time will tell. That's not comforting. Wasn't trying to be. Now get back to work. Table 9 needs a refill, and the Hendersons are waving their check at you. Sophie stumbled back onto the floor, her mind racing. Tomorrow she would meet a stranger and ask him to pretend to be the love of her life. A stranger she was paying $5 an hour to lie to her family. This was either the most brilliant plan ever or the beginning of a complete disaster. Knowing her luck, probably the latter. As she refilled coffee cups and delivered plates of comfort food, Sophie's phone buzzed again in her pocket. Another message from her mother, this one with a photo attached. It was her father's favorite Christmas sweater, The ridiculous one with Rudolph on it. Mom, found this in the closet. Thought maybe Daniel might want to wear it. Dad would have loved him, Sophie. He would have been so happy you found someone. Sophie locked herself in the bathroom and cried. Tomorrow she would meet Jake M., whoever he was, and then for better or worse the real show would begin. She just hoped she was ready for it. Sophie had changed her outfit 4 times before settling on jeans and the blue jacket she'd mentioned in her message. Now, standing in Alamo Plaza with tourists swarming around her like ants at a picnic, she was second-guessing everything. The December sun was warm despite the season, typical for San Antonio. The Alamo stood behind her, that famous limestone fortress where heroes had made their last stand. Sophie felt a kinship with them right now. She was about to make her own desperate stand, though considerably less heroic and significantly more embarrassing. Her phone read 1:58 p.m. 2 minutes until she met a complete stranger who had agreed to pretend to be her boyfriend for $5 an hour. When she said it like that in her head, it sounded even more insane than it had yesterday. "This is stupid," she muttered, already turning to leave. "This is so incredibly stupid, Sophie. Just tell your family the truth. They'll understand. They'll—" "Sophie Carter." The voice came from behind her, smooth and deep with a hint of amusement. Sophie spun around and nearly swallowed her tongue. The man standing before her was not what she'd expected, not even close. He was tall, easily 6'2", with dark hair that looked professionally styled but casually tousled, like he'd run his fingers through it on purpose. His eyes were a striking grey-blue that reminded her of storm clouds over the Gulf. He wore dark jeans, expensive-looking boots, and a simple black Henley that hugged his frame in a way that suggested he was very familiar with a gym. This was Jake M. This Adonis of a human being had agreed to be her fake boyfriend for $5 an hour. Yes, I'm Sophie," she managed, hating how breathless she sounded. "Are you—" "Jake. Guilty as charged." He extended his hand, and when she took it, his grip was warm and firm, not too aggressive, not too soft, perfect. Of course it was perfect. Everything about him screamed perfect. "Should we walk?" Probably easier to talk away from the crowd. Sophie nodded, not trusting her voice. They started walking along the river walk, the San Antonio River glittering in the afternoon light. Street performers played guitars, tourists snapped photos, and the smell of fresh tortillas from nearby restaurants filled the air. "So," Jake said, his hands casually in his pockets, "tell me about this family dinner situation. Your post was a bit vague." Sophie took a deep breath. "It's going to sound pathetic. I agreed to be a fake boyfriend for $5 an hour. I don't judge." Despite herself, Sophie laughed. Fair point. She launched into the story. Her father's death, the lie she'd told to comfort him, the way it had spiraled out of control, the family Christmas gathering that now loomed like an execution date. Jake listened without interrupting, his expression thoughtful. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment, watching a riverboat glide past. "That's not pathetic," he said finally. "That's actually kind of beautiful, in a tragic way. You loved your father enough to lie to make him feel better in his last days. Or I'm a coward who couldn't face disappointing him. Can't it be both?" Jake glanced at her, a slight smile on his lips. "People are complicated. Motives are messy. You did what you thought was right at the time. Now you're stuck with the consequences. That's just being human." Sophie stared at him. "That's surprisingly philosophical for someone doing TaskRabbit gigs." Something flickered across Jake's face, too quick for her to read. "I contain multitudes," he said lightly. "So, December 24th, what do I need to know about your family?" They found a bench overlooking the water, and Sophie pulled out her phone, showing him photos. "This is my mom, Patricia. She's a kindergarten teacher, very sweet, but asks a million questions. She'll probably cry when she meets you because she cries at everything since Dad died." "Noted. Bring tissues." "This is Aunt Linda. She's going to interrogate you like you're applying for the CIA. Where you work, where you went to school, your credit score, probably your blood type." "Oh, positive, for the record." Sophie blinked. "Really?" "No idea. But now she'll think I'm prepared." Jake grinned, and Sophie felt something flutter in her chest. Dangerous. This was a business transaction. Nothing more. She continued showing photos. "Cousin Jessica, she's recently divorced and bitter about it. So she'll probably make passive-aggressive comments about relationships. Uncle Robert, he'll want to talk sports. Do you know anything about the Spurs? Enough to fake it. And this is my younger brother, Tyler. He's 23 and thinks he knows everything. He'll probably try to bro bond with you. Jake studied each photo carefully, like he was memorizing faces for an exam. What about you? What should I know about Sophie Carter? The question caught her off guard. What do you mean? If I'm going to convince your family I'm madly in love with you, I should probably know more than your name and where you work. He turned to face her fully, those storm cloud eyes focused intently on her face. What are your hobbies? Pet peeves? Favorite movie? How do you take your coffee? Sophie's brain short-circuited. I like reading. Mystery novels mostly. I hate when people chew with their mouth open. Favorite movie is The Princess Bride. Coffee with cream, no sugar. The Princess Bride. Classic choice. As You Wish and all that. You've seen it? Doesn't everyone quote it at least once in their life? Jake leaned back, draping his arm along the bench behind her, not touching but close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. What else? Siblings I already know about. Dreams, fears, the deep stuff. Why do you need to know the deep stuff for one dinner? Because your family will be watching us, looking for chemistry. If I don't know you, they'll spot the lie in 5 minutes. He tilted his head, studying her. Unless you want this to fail? No, Sophie twisted her hands in her lap. This feels weird. Downloading my life story to a stranger. We won't be strangers after this conversation. His voice was gentle, encouraging. Come on, Sophie. Give me something real. What's your biggest fear? She looked out at the river, watching the light dance on the water. Ending up alone, dying like my dad did, with my kids telling me comfortable lies because the truth is too sad. The words hung in the air between them, heavier than she'd intended. Jake was quiet for a long moment. That's honest, he said softly. And for what it's worth, I don't think you'll end up alone. You don't even know me. I know you love your family enough to go through this charade. I know you're brave enough to meet a stranger from the internet. I know you make people smile at that diner, even when you're exhausted. I saw the way you described those customers yesterday in your head. Those are not qualities of someone who ends up alone. Sophie turned to look at him, startled. How do you know I'm exhausted at work? Jake's expression shuttered for a fraction of a second. Lucky guess, you're a waitress. It's a tough job. Something about his answer felt off, but Sophie couldn't pinpoint what. Before she could push further, Jake stood and offered his hand. Come on, if we're going to sell this, we need to practice. Practice what? Being a couple, looking comfortable together. Your family will notice if we're stiff and awkward. He pulled her to her feet, keeping her hand in his. First lesson, physical comfort. We need to be able to touch each other naturally. Sophie's heart was doing gymnastics in her chest. Touch each other? Nothing inappropriate, just here. He guided her hand to the crook of his elbow, the classic gentleman's escort position. Walk with me. Pretend we're on a date. They started walking, and Sophie was acutely aware of every point where her body connected with his. The solid strength of his arm under her hand, the way he shortened his stride to match hers, the subtle scent of his cologne, something woodsy and expensive. So, boyfriend, she said, trying to sound casual and failing miserably, what should I know about you? If my family asks, I need answers. Fair enough, Jake considered for a moment. I work in business consulting. Boring stuff, mostly. I'm originally from Houston, but moved to San Antonio a few years ago. I like old movies, terrible puns, and breakfast tacos from Taco Taco Cafe. Taco Taco Cafe? On Broadway? Best breakfast tacos in the city, fight me. Sophie laughed. I'm not going to fight you on that. Their potato and egg is legendary. See, we already have common ground. This is going to be easier than you think. Jake stopped walking and turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. Now the hard part. We need a story. How did we meet? Oh God, I didn't think about that. Your family will definitely ask, so let's make it good. Believable, but romantic. His thumbs traced absent circles on the backs of her hands, and Sophie tried very hard not to think about how much she liked it. What if we met at the diner? I came in for lunch, you were my server. We hit it off. That's so cliché. Clichés exist because they work. Plus, it's close to the truth. You do work at a diner. Easy to remember, hard to trip up on. Jake's eyes sparkled with mischief. Or we could say we met during a flash mob, or a bank robbery, or an alien invasion. You're ridiculous. You're smiling, though. She was. Despite the insanity of the situation, despite the stranger danger alarm bells that should be ringing in her head, Sophie was genuinely smiling. Okay, we met at the diner. You came in 3 months ago. That lines up with when I told my family about Daniel. Why did you name him Daniel, by the way? Sophie felt her cheeks heat. It was my dad's middle name. Jake's expression softened. That's sweet. Okay, so I came into the Magnolia Diner 3 months ago. I ordered, what? Chicken fried steak. Everyone orders the chicken fried steak. Disgusting, but sure. I ordered the chicken fried steak, you brought it to my table, and I made some charming comment that made you laugh. What did I say? Sophie bit her lip, thinking, you said, I came here for the food, but I'm staying for the view. Cheesy, but effective. Perfect. And then? And then you left your number on the receipt with a ridiculous tip. How much? $50 on a $15 meal. Jake winced. That's not charming. That's trying too hard. It worked, didn't it? In this story, anyway. Sophie was getting into it now, the narrative forming in her mind. I called you that night. We went for coffee the next day. We've been together ever since. Where was our first official date? Here. The Riverwalk. We had dinner at Boudreaux's. Sophie gestured toward the restaurant ahead of them. You insisted on the guacamole made tableside, and you told terrible jokes the whole time. I do tell terrible jokes. What kind? I don't know. Make some up. Okay. Jake cleared his throat dramatically. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Sophie groaned. Why? Because they make up everything. He looked so pleased with himself that Sophie couldn't help but laugh. That's awful. But you're laughing. Against my will. Still counts. Jake checked his watch, and Sophie noticed it was definitely expensive, Swiss-made if she had to guess. Weird for someone taking $5 gigs. We should probably discuss logistics, the actual dinner. What time should I pick you up? Pick me up? We should arrive together, more convincing. Where do you live? Sophie hesitated. Giving a stranger her address felt like crossing a line, but he had a point. I'll text you the address. Pick me up at 5:30? Dinner starts at 6, but my mom will want to meet you before everyone else arrives. 5:30 works. I'll bring flowers for your mother. What's her favorite? You don't have to. Sophie, details sell the lie. What's her favorite flower? Sunflowers, Sophie admitted. She grows them in her garden every summer. Sunflowers for Patricia it is. Jake squeezed her hands gently before releasing them. We should exchange numbers. Real ones, not just through the app. They swapped phones and entered their information. When Sophie handed his phone back, their fingers brushed, and she felt that flutter in her chest again. This was becoming a problem. So, she said, trying to regain her equilibrium, I'll pay you at the end of the night. $25 for 5 hours, assuming it doesn't run longer. Something flickered across Jake's face again. About that. I've been thinking, if you're backing out, I'm not backing out, but the money feels wrong. Keep it. Use it for something else. Sophie stared at him. I'm not a charity case. I didn't say you were. I'm saying I don't need the money and you clearly do, so keep it. Then why did you agree to do this? It was a fair question, and from the way Jake's expression changed, he knew it. He looked away, toward the Alamo in the distance, his jaw tightening. Let's just say I have my reasons, he said finally. Personal ones. The money was never the point. That's not ominous at all. I'm not a serial killer, if that's what you're worried about. That's exactly what a serial killer would say. Jake laughed, a real laugh that crinkled the corners of his eyes. Fair. Look, Sophie, I promise you're safe with me. Scout's honor. He held up 3 fingers. Were you actually a Boy Scout? Not even a little bit. But I watch a lot of movies, and that's what they do, right? Despite her lingering concerns, Sophie found herself relaxing. There was something about Jake, something warm and genuine beneath the mystery. Maybe she was being stupid. Maybe this would blow up in her face spectacularly. But right now, standing in the December sunshine with this strange, charming man who'd agreed to her insane plan, Sophie felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Okay, she said. December 24th, 5:30. Don't be late. Wouldn't dream of it. Jake stepped closer, and suddenly he was right there in her personal space, his hand coming up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so intimate, so boyfriend-like, that Sophie forgot to breathe. One more thing. We should practice this. Practice what? Selling the chemistry. Your family will be watching how we interact. We need to be comfortable with each other. His voice had dropped lower, almost a whisper. May I? May you what? Instead of answering, Jake leaned down slowly, giving her plenty of time to pull away. His lips brushed her forehead, feather-light and brief, but the touch sent electricity racing through Sophie's entire body. When he pulled back, he was smiling. See? Not so hard. We'll be fine. Sophie's brain had completely short-circuited. Right, fine, totally fine. I'll see you on Christmas Eve, Sophie Carter. Jake stepped back, giving her a small wave. And don't worry. We're going to pull this off. He walked away, hands in his pockets, leaving Sophie standing frozen by the river. What the hell had she just gotten herself into, and why did part of her not care about the answer? The week before Christmas passed in a blur of anxiety and anticipation. Sophie picked up extra shifts at the Magnolia, partly because she needed the money, partly because staying busy kept her from obsessing over the impending disaster that was Christmas Eve. But Jake kept creeping into her thoughts at the most inconvenient times. She'd be pouring coffee and suddenly remember the way his eyes had crinkled when he laughed. She'd be taking orders and think about his hand tucking her hair behind her ear. She'd be wiping down tables and feel the ghost of his lips on her forehead. It was ridiculous. He was a stranger doing a job. A very weird, very underpaid job. Nothing more. You're thinking about him again, Marcus said, startling her out of her reverie. It was Thursday afternoon, 3 days before Christmas, and the Magnolia was mercifully slow. I am not. You've been staring at that same coffee pot for 5 minutes. Either you're thinking about him or you've developed a passionate relationship with Colombian roast. Sophie set down the pot with more force than necessary. Fine. Maybe I'm a little worried about Saturday. Worried or excited? Marcus waggled his eyebrows suggestively. Worried? This whole thing could blow up spectacularly. What if my family sees through it immediately? What if Jake says something wrong? What if... Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, and her heart did an annoying little skip when she saw Jake's name. Jake, quick question. Does your family have any food allergies I should know about? And what's the dress code? Casual, business casual, ugly Christmas sweater mandatory. Sophie smiled, despite herself. Sophie, no allergies. Casual is fine. Ugly sweaters are encouraged but not required. Why? Jake, just making sure I don't poison anyone or show up looking like I'm attending a board meeting. Also, I found a sweater with cats wearing Santa hats. Thoughts? Sophie, that sounds horrifying. Please wear it. Jake, your wish is my command, girlfriend. The word girlfriend, even in text form, even as a joke, made Sophie's stomach flutter. Oh, you've got it bad, Marcus said, reading over her shoulder. I do not have anything. This is a business arrangement. Sure, and I'm the King of England. Your Majesty, may I take your order? Before Sophie could respond, the bell over the door chimed. She looked up automatically, ready to greet the new customer, and nearly dropped her phone. A woman had entered, tall, elegant, probably in her 50s, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than Sophie's monthly rent. But it wasn't the woman who made Sophie's blood run cold. It was the younger woman beside her. Beautiful, polished, with honey blonde hair, and the kind of confidence that came from never having to check a price tag in her life. She was looking around the Magnolia with barely concealed disdain, her nose wrinkling slightly at the worn booths and checkered floor. May I help you? Sophie asked, forcing professionalism into her voice. The older woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. We're looking for someone, actually. We heard he might frequent this area. Tall, dark hair, very handsome, goes by Jake. Sophie's heart stopped. Why are you looking for him? We're family, the younger woman said, her voice dripping with honeyed venom. I'm Victoria Mitchell. That's my mother, Catherine. We're looking for my fiancé. The world tilted sideways. Fiancé? I think you have the wrong person, Sophie managed. I don't know anyone named Jake. Victoria's smile sharpened. Really? Because we tracked his phone to this area. Several times over the past week, actually. and someone matching his description was seen with a waitress, dark hair about your height. Her eyes raked over Sophie's stained uniform. Though I can't imagine what he'd want with... She trailed off, the implication hanging in the air like poison. Catherine placed a restraining hand on her daughter's arm. We're just concerned. Jake has been going through something, making odd decisions. If you do see him, could you let us know? Here's my card. She placed an embossed business card on the counter. Sophie glanced at it. Catherine Mitchell, CEO, Mitchell Industries. Mitchell Industries. The name tickled something in Sophie's memory, but she couldn't place it. I'll keep an eye out, Sophie lied, slipping the card into her apron pocket. After they left, Marcus whistled low. What the hell was that about? I have no idea. Sophie pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She needed answers. Now. Sophie, we need to talk. Are you engaged? The response came almost immediately. Jake. What? No. Where did that come from? Sophie. 2 women just came into the diner looking for you. Victoria and Catherine Mitchell. Victoria said she's your fiancée. There was a long pause. Sophie watched the 3 dots appear and disappear several times. Jake. Can we meet? I can explain everything, but not over text. Please. Sophie. I'm working until 6. Jake. I'll be outside at 6. Sophie. I promise I can explain. The rest of her shift dragged by with agonizing slowness. Sophie's mind raced with possibilities, each worse than the last. Was Jake married? Engaged? Running from some rich family? Was he using her for something? By the time 6 o'clock rolled around, Sophie had worked herself into a state of righteous fury. She clocked out, grabbed her jacket, and stormed outside. Jake was waiting by a sleek black car, not a fancy sports car, but something expensive and understated. When he saw her expression, he held up his hands in surrender. Before you yell, "Are you engaged to Victoria Mitchell?" No, absolutely not. She seems to think differently. Jake ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident on his face. Can we go somewhere private? I'll tell you everything, but not here on the street. I'm not getting in a car with you until you start talking. Fair. Jake leaned against the car, crossing his arms. My full name is Jacob Mitchell III. My father is James Mitchell II, founder and former CEO of Mitchell Industries. My mother is Catherine Mitchell, current CEO. Victoria Hayes is the daughter of our biggest business partner. Our families have been trying to arrange a marriage between us since we were teenagers. Sophie's jaw dropped. Mitchell Industries, the tech company, the one worth billions? That would be the one. You're a billionaire. Technically, my family is. I have access to money, yes, but it comes with strings, lots of strings, including Victoria. Jake's expression darkened. She's convinced we're destined to be together because our fathers planned it over scotch 30 years ago. I've told her no approximately 500 times. She doesn't take rejection well. Sophie's mind was reeling. Why are you doing TaskRabbit gigs if you're rich? Because nobody knows who I am when I do that. Nobody wants something from me. Nobody's trying to use me for connections or money or... He stopped, looking away. I like being nobody for a while. So you lied to me? I didn't lie, I just didn't volunteer information about my bank account. Would you have hired me if you knew? No, I'd have assumed you were mocking me. Exactly. I wanted to do this. I wanted to help you. The money was never the point. Jake stepped closer, his voice earnest. Sophie, I swear to you I'm not engaged, I'm not involved with anyone. Victoria is delusional, and my mother enables her because she thinks it's good for business. Does Victoria know about Saturday? About the fake boyfriend thing? No, and she can't find out. Jake's expression turned grim. If she knew I was pretending to be someone's boyfriend, she'd lose her mind. Or worse, she'd show up and cause a scene. Your family dinner would turn into a circus. Sophie pressed her hands to her temples. This is insane. This whole thing is insane. I know, and I'm sorry. I should have told you up front. Jake pulled out his phone and showed her his screen, a long string of texts from Victoria, each more unhinged than the last. Accusations, pleas, threats, desperate declarations of love. She's been like this for months, ever since I told her again that I wasn't interested. She's tracking my phone, following me around. It's borderline stalking. Have you called the police? And tell them what? That the daughter of my father's business partner is obsessed with me? It would cause a scandal, hurt both companies, and my family would never forgive me. Jake looked exhausted suddenly, the charming facade cracking to reveal something raw underneath. Sometimes I just want to disappear, be someone else for a while, someone normal. Sophie understood that feeling more than she wanted to admit. Is that why you agreed to my ad? To play pretend at being normal? Maybe partly, but also because your post made me laugh. It was so desperately honest. And I thought, he trailed off, looking almost embarrassed. I thought it might be nice, playing boyfriend to someone who actually wanted me there, even if it was fake, someone who wasn't Victoria. The anger drained out of Sophie, replaced by something more complicated. Sympathy, maybe, or recognition of a kindred spirit, someone else wearing a mask pretending to be something they weren't. We're a mess, aren't we? She said softly. The messiest. Jake managed a small smile. So, are we still on for Saturday? Or do you want to find someone else? I'd understand. Sophie thought about it. About Victoria and Catherine showing up at the Magnolia. About billionaire heirs with stalker ex-fiancés. About lies and secrets and increasingly complicated situations. She should definitely find someone else. We're still on, she heard herself say, but no more secrets. If there's anything else I should know, you tell me now. There is one more thing. Jake hesitated, then pulled out his phone again. He scrolled through his photos and held it out to her. Sophie took the phone and felt her blood turn to ice. It was a photo from 5 years ago. A younger Jake, skinnier, with shorter hair and glasses, wearing an ill-fitting suit. He was at what looked like a charity gala, standing awkwardly by the punch bowl. And next to him, laughing with a group of friends, was Sophie. She remembered that night. The San Antonio Children's Hospital fundraiser where she'd been working as catering staff to make extra money. Some awkward rich kid had tried to talk to her, asked her to dance. She'd been tired, stressed about her father's medical bills, and she'd... Oh, God. You, she whispered. You were that guy. I was that guy, Jake confirmed quietly. The one you told to get lost because you didn't date trust fund babies who wouldn't know real work if it bit them in their designer ass. Direct quote, by the way. Very memorable. Sophie wanted to die, to sink through the pavement and disappear forever. Jake, It's fine. You were right, honestly. I was a privileged idiot who thought money could impress anyone. You were the first person to see through it and call me on my crap. He took the phone back. That night changed me, actually. Made me realize I needed to figure out who I was without the Mitchell name attached. Is that why you agreed to my ad? Some kind of revenge? What? No! Jake looked genuinely shocked. Sophie, I didn't even realize it was you until we met at the Alamo. Then I thought maybe, I don't know, maybe it was fate. A chance to start over. Do things right this time? By lying about who you are? By being who I actually am, not who my family expects me to be. Jake's gray-blue eyes locked on hers. These past few days, texting you, planning for Saturday, it's been the most real I've felt in years. You don't want anything from me. You don't even like me that much. I don't dislike you, Sophie said, surprising herself with the truth of it. High praise. Jake smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. Look, if you want out, I get it. This got complicated. You can tell your family Daniel got sick or had to work or got abducted by aliens. Whatever you want. Sophie looked at him, really looked at him. At the vulnerability in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the way he held himself like he expected rejection. She thought about her own lies, her own desperation, her own desire to be someone different for just one night. No, she said firmly. We're doing this, but if Victoria shows up at my mother's house, you're handling it. Jake's face lit up with relief and something else, something warm that made Sophie's heart do gymnastics again. Deal. I promise I'll protect your family dinner with my life. That's very dramatic. I'm a dramatic person. You'll learn. He glanced at his watch. I should let you go. Big day on Saturday. Wait. Sophie caught his arm as he turned to leave. The real reason you took my ad? Tell me. Jake was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Because 5 years ago, a beautiful waitress told me I needed to learn what real work was. So I did. I spent 5 years trying to become someone worthy of a second chance with her, and then like a miracle she posted an ad looking for a fake boyfriend. He smiled sadly. Sometimes the universe gives you exactly what you need in the weirdest way possible. He got in his car and drove away, leaving Sophie standing on the sidewalk, her world completely upended. In 3 days, she would introduce Jake Mitchell, billionaire heir, her past rejection, and increasingly less fake boyfriend, to her family. What could possibly go wrong? Everything, her brain screamed, absolutely everything. But as Sophie walked to her bus stop, she found herself smiling anyway. Christmas Eve arrived with unseasonably warm weather and Sophie's complete emotional breakdown. She'd changed outfits 6 times, finally settling on a red sweater dress that her mother had given her last year. It was festive without being over the top, flattering without being too revealing, and most importantly, it had pockets where she could hide her trembling hands. Her small apartment looked like a tornado had hit it. Rejected outfit options covered every surface, makeup scattered across the bathroom counter, her straightener still plugged in because she'd changed her mind about her hair 3 times. "You look beautiful," Marcus said from her couch, where he'd been providing moral support for the past hour. "Stop fidgeting. What if he doesn't show up? What if Victoria found out and did something? What if—" A knock at the door cut off her spiral. Sophie froze. This was it. No turning back now. She opened the door and forgot how to breathe. Jake stood in her doorway wearing dark jeans, a button-down shirt, and yes, the promised ugly Christmas sweater featuring cats in Santa hats. He held a bouquet of sunflowers in one hand and a small wrapped box in the other. His hair was perfectly styled, his smile warm and genuine, and he looked every inch the perfect boyfriend. "Hi," he said softly. "You look incredible. You're wearing the cat sweater. I'm a man of my word." He glanced past her to where Marcus was giving him a thumbs up. "Ready to do this?" "Not even a little bit." "Good. Me neither. We'll panic together." Jake offered his arm. "Shall we?" The drive to her mother's house in Alamo Heights took 20 minutes that felt like 20 seconds. Jake drove with calm confidence, one hand on the wheel, the other occasionally reaching over to squeeze Sophie's hand when her anxiety became visible. "Tell me about the house," he said, clearly trying to distract her. "What should I expect?" "It's the house I grew up in. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a backyard where Dad used to grill every Sunday. Mom's kept everything exactly the same since he died. His reading chair, his coffee mug, even his tools in the garage." Sophie's throat tightened. "It's like a museum sometimes." "Grief is complicated," Jake said quietly. "There's no right way to do it." "Is that from experience?" "My grandmother died when I was 16. My mother turned her entire wing of the house into a shrine. Wouldn't let anyone touch anything for 3 years. He smiled sadly. Eventually, she started packing things up, donated her clothes, gave away her jewelry, but she kept the important stuff, the things that held memories. Sophie looked at him with new appreciation. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone more superficial. You're a billionaire who does TaskRabbit gigs and quotes The Princess Bride. It doesn't compute. People are complicated. We contain multitudes, remember." Jake pulled up to a charming 2-story house decorated with enough Christmas lights to be visible from space. "This is it?" "That's it. Mom goes a little overboard with decorations." "A little?" Jake laughed. "I love it. It's perfect." They sat in the car for a moment, neither moving. Sophie could see movement through the windows. Her family was already there waiting. "Last chance to back out," she whispered. Jake turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. "Sophie Carter, I'm about to meet your family and pretend to be the love of your life. I'm wearing a sweater with cats on it. I brought sunflowers for your mother and—" he held up the wrapped box. "Homemade cookies for the gathering because I stress bake. I am fully committed to this insanity." "You stress bake?" "Snickerdoodles, family recipe. Are we doing this or not?" Sophie took a deep breath. "We're doing this." Jake kissed her forehead gently, that same gesture from the Alamo that sent electricity through her veins, and whispered, "Then let's give them a show." They got out of the car, and Jake immediately took her hand, lacing their fingers together. The simple gesture felt earth-shatteringly intimate. Sophie led him up the walkway, past the inflatable Santa and the light-up reindeer to the front door. Before she could knock, the door flew open. "Sophie!" Her mother, Patricia Carter, stood in the doorway, her eyes already misty. She was a petite woman in her early 50s wearing a festive apron covered in gingerbread men. "And you must be Daniel. Oh, come in, come in." "Actually, Mom, his name is Jake. It's a nickname thing," Sophie improvised quickly. "Jake, this is my mother, Patricia." Jake immediately presented the sunflowers with a smile that could melt glaciers. "Mrs. Carter, it's such an honor to finally meet you. Sophie talks about you constantly." Patricia took the flowers with trembling hands, tears spilling over. "Oh, they're beautiful. Sunflowers are my favorite. How did you know?" "Sophie told me. She told me everything about you. Your kindergarten class, your garden, how you make the best pecan pie in Texas." Jake's voice was warm, genuine. "She loves you very much." Patricia pulled Jake into a hug, crying into his sweater. Sophie mouthed "thank you" over her mother's shoulder, and Jake winked. "Come in, both of you. Everyone's in the living room. They're dying to meet you, Jake." The house smelled like cinnamon and pine. A massive Christmas tree dominated the living room, decorated with years of homemade ornaments and family photos. Sophie's father smiled at her from a dozen different frames. "Everyone, they're here," Patricia called out. The family descended like a very loving, very nosy tornado. Aunt Linda was first, her sharp eyes cataloguing everything about Jake in seconds. "So you're the mysterious boyfriend. I have questions." "I'd be disappointed if you didn't," Jake said smoothly, shaking her hand. "Fire away." "Where did you go to college?" "Rice University. Business major, art history minor." "Art history?" Uncle Robert raised an eyebrow. He was a large man who wore a Spurs jersey like formal wear. "That's an interesting choice." "My grandmother was a painter. She insisted I learn to appreciate beauty in all forms." Jake glanced at Sophie. "Best decision I ever made." Sophie's cousin Jessica pushed forward, her eyes predatory. Fresh from a bitter divorce, she looked ready to find flaws. "What do you do for work?" "Business consulting. Boring spreadsheets mostly, but it pays the bills." "Must pay well if you can afford that watch." Jessica's voice dripped with suspicion. Sophie tensed, but Jake just laughed. "It was a gift from my parents. They're big on inappropriate displays of affection. Last year I got cufflinks. I don't even own cufflinks." The answer was perfect, truthful but deflecting. Sophie relaxed slightly. Tyler, her younger brother, bounded over with the enthusiasm of a golden retriever. "Dude, you like sports? Mom said you're into the Spurs." "Die-hard fan. Been following them since the Duncan era." "Yes," Tyler high-fived him. "Finally, someone who gets it. Uncle Robert thinks the Mavericks are better. Can you believe that?" "The Mavericks?" Jake clutched his chest in mock horror. "Mrs. Carter, you're feeding him, right? He clearly has a nutritional deficiency affecting his judgment." Uncle Robert laughed despite himself. "All right, smart guy. Who's your all-time favorite Spur?" "Manu Ginobili. That Eurostep? Poetry in motion." "Acceptable answer." Uncle Robert clapped Jake on the shoulder. "You'll do." Sophie watched in amazement as Jake worked the room. He complimented Aunt Linda's earrings and asked thoughtful questions about her real estate business. He challenged Tyler to a discussion about the Spurs' playoff chances. He helped Patricia in the kitchen, insisting on making himself useful. He was perfect, too perfect, and Sophie was starting to forget this was all pretend. "He's wonderful," her mother whispered, cornering Sophie in the hallway. "Honey, your father would have loved him." The words hit Sophie like a physical blow. "Mom, I know you miss him. I know this first Christmas without him is hard, but seeing you happy, seeing you with someone who looks at you the way Jake does." Patricia touched Sophie's face gently. "It helps. It makes me think everything will be okay." Sophie fought back tears. "I hope so." Dinner was a chaotic, loud affair, exactly how the Carter family did everything. The dining table overflowed with food: ham, turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, rolls, and Patricia's famous pecan pie. Jake fit in seamlessly, telling stories about their relationship that were so detailed and believable that Sophie almost forgot she'd made up half of them. He held her hand under the table. He laughed at her jokes. He defended her honor when Tyler made a crack about her cooking skills. "Hey, Sophie makes excellent coffee," Jake said loyally. "Best I've ever had." "That's because it's the only thing she can make," Tyler shot back. "Not true. She also makes incredible conversation, has impeccable taste in movies, and gives the world's best advice about life problems." Jake squeezed her hand. "She's pretty spectacular all around." Sophie's heart did a complete somersault. After dinner, while everyone was settling into food comas in the living room, Sophie escaped to the backyard. She needed air, space, a moment to process the fact that her fake boyfriend was making her feel things that were definitely not fake. Jake found her 5 minutes later, standing by her father's old grill. "You okay?" he asked softly. "You're really good at this," Sophie said instead of answering. "The whole boyfriend thing, those stories, the way you talk about me. It almost sounds real." Jake stepped closer. "Who says it's not?" "Jake, I know the deal. I know this is supposed to be fake. But Sophie, I haven't been acting in there." His voice was raw, honest. "Every word I said about you was true. You are spectacular. You are incredible. And spending time with you this week has been the best week I've had in years." Sophie's breath caught. "You don't mean that." "I do. And I think maybe you feel something too." She did. God help her, she did. But this was crazy. He was a billionaire. She was a waitress. He had stalker ex-fiancés and family expectations. She had student loans and a dead-end job. Before she could respond, the back door opened. "Sophie! Jake! We're doing presents!" Patricia called out. The moment shattered. Jake gave her a rueful smile. "We should go back." "Jake, wait!" But he was already walking toward the house, leaving Sophie alone with her thundering heart and the ghost of her father's presence in the December night. Inside, the family had gathered around the tree. Patricia handed out gifts with the enthusiasm of a game show host. Sophie received a new cookbook from Aunt Linda, "Maybe this year you'll learn to cook," a Spurs jersey from Tyler, and a beautiful framed photo of her and her father from her mother. "This was his favorite picture of you two," Patricia said, tears streaming down her face. "He loved you so much, baby." Sophie clutched the frame, her own tears flowing freely. Jake's arm came around her shoulders, solid and comforting. Then Patricia pulled out one more gift, a small box wrapped in silver paper. "This is for you, Jake. From the family. Welcome." Jake looked genuinely shocked. "Mrs. Carter, you didn't have to—" "Open it, dear." Inside was a simple leather bracelet with a small charm, the Texas star. "So you always remember where home is," Patricia explained, "and where your family is." Jake's hand trembled as he put on the bracelet. "Thank you, all of you. This means more than you know." Sophie's heart cracked wide open. This wasn't fake anymore. None of it was fake, and that terrified her more than anything. The evening wound down around 10. Jake helped clean up, charmed everyone one last time, and then it was time to leave. "Drive safe," Patricia hugged them both. "And Jake, you're welcome here any time. You're part of this family now." In the car, they sat in silence for several minutes. "Your family is wonderful," Jake said finally. "They loved you. I loved them." He turned to look at her. "Sophie, we need to talk about—" Sophie's phone rang. She glanced at it and felt her blood run cold. Unknown number. She answered. "Hello, Sophie Carter." A woman's voice, cold and sharp. "This is Victoria Mitchell. We need to discuss your relationship with my fiancé." Sophie's eyes met Jake's horrified expression. The charade was about to explode. Sophie stared at her phone like it was a live grenade. Victoria Mitchell's voice dripped through the speaker like poison. "I know you're with him right now. I can see his car on the tracker." Jake grabbed the phone from Sophie's hand. "Victoria, this is harassment. Stop calling." "Harassment? Harassment!" Victoria's voice rose to a shriek. "You've been lying to me, Jake. You said you weren't seeing anyone. You said you needed space. And now I find out you're playing house with some waitress?" "How did you get this number?" Sophie demanded, taking the phone back. "I have resources, honey, and I know everything about you." Sophie Marie Carter, 27, works at the Magnolia Diner, lives in a studio apartment on West Houston Street. Father died 6 months ago. You're drowning in debt and desperate. How much is he paying you to pretend to be his girlfriend? Sophie's hands shook. "That's none of your business." "It's entirely my business when you're trying to steal my fiancé." "He's not your fiancé," Sophie shouted. "He's told you no. That means no. You don't understand what we have, what our families have built together. You're just some trashy gold digger who—" Jake snatched the phone back, his jaw tight with fury. Victoria, listen very carefully. I am not your fiancé. I have never been your fiancé. I will never be your fiancé. What you and I have is nothing. What our parents want is irrelevant, and if you ever speak about Sophie like that again, I will file a restraining order so fast your head will spin. He hung up and immediately turned off Sophie's phone. They sat in the car outside Sophie's mother's house, both breathing hard, the festive Christmas lights mocking them with their cheerfulness. She knows, Sophie whispered. She knows everything. She doesn't know about the ad. She doesn't know this started as fake. Jake ran his hands through his hair. She just thinks I'm dating you for real, which we're not, because this is fake, right? Sophie's voice cracked on the last word. Jake turned to look at her, his eyes intense in the darkness. Is it? Still? Jake, don't... Answer the question, Sophie. Is this still fake to you? Sophie wanted to lie, wanted to protect herself, keep her walls up, maintain the safe distance between them. But she was so tired of lying. No, she whispered. It stopped being fake somewhere between the Riverwalk and right now. Jake's expression transformed. Relief, joy, fear, all mixed together. Thank God, because I've been falling for you since the moment you opened your door in that red dress. Hell, maybe I've been falling for you since 5 years ago when you told me off at that gala. That's crazy, you don't even know me. I know you love your family enough to make up an elaborate lie to protect them. I know you work yourself to exhaustion to pay bills. I know you take your coffee with cream, no sugar. I know you quote The Princess Bride when you're nervous. I know your father's death broke something in you that you're trying to hold together with duct tape and sheer willpower. Jake cupped her face gently. I know you, Sophie Carter, and I'm absolutely terrified because I think I'm in love with you. Sophie's breath caught. You can't be. Why not? Because you're a billionaire and I'm a waitress. Because we live in completely different worlds. Because Victoria is right, I am drowning in debt and you're drowning in money, and this doesn't make sense. So what? Jake's thumb traced her cheekbone. So what if our bank accounts are different? So what if we come from different backgrounds? Does that change how I feel? Does that change how you feel? It changes everything. Your family will never accept me. Victoria will make my life hell. And what happens when you realize I'm not worth the drama? When you wake up and remember you can have anyone, supermodels, heiresses, people who actually fit into your world. I don't want anyone else. I want the woman who told me I needed to learn about real work. I want the woman who's brave enough to hire a stranger for $5. I want you, Sophie. Just you. Tears streamed down Sophie's face. This is insane. The best things usually are. Jake leaned closer, his forehead touching hers. Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me I'm alone in this and I'll walk away. I'll finish tonight, say goodbye, and you'll never have to see me again. But if you feel even a fraction of what I feel... Sophie couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel Jake's warmth, his closeness, the way her heart was beating so hard she thought it might explode. I feel it, she whispered. I'm terrified, but I feel it. Jake's smile was brilliant. Yeah? Yeah. Can I kiss you? For real this time? Instead of answering, Sophie closed the distance between them. The kiss was nothing like his chaste forehead kiss. It was desperate and sweet and real, so achingly real. Jake's hand tangled in her hair while Sophie gripped his ridiculous cat sweater, pulling him closer. The kiss tasted like pecan pie and possibility, like Christmas miracles and second chances. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Jake rested his forehead against hers. Wow, he breathed. That was... Yeah. They sat there for a moment, the weight of what had just happened settling over them. This was real now. Terrifyingly, beautifully real. Sophie's phone, still in Jake's hand, buzzed. Then again and again. Jake turned it back on, and they both watched as message after message flooded in. Victoria, you think you've won? You think he'll actually choose you? Victoria, he's using you. He does this. Find some charity case to make himself feel noble. Victoria, when he gets bored, you'll be yesterday's news. And I'll still be here. Victoria, I know about the ad, Sophie. The TaskRabbit post. The $5. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Sophie's blood turned to ice. She knows. She knows about the ad. Jake's expression darkened as he read the messages. How did she... Does it matter? She knows this started as fake. She'll tell your family. She'll tell my family. Sophie's panic was rising. Oh God, Jake, my mother just welcomed you into the family. She gave you that bracelet. She thinks everyone thinks. So we tell them the truth. The truth that I hired you to pretend to be my boyfriend, that this entire night was a lie. Not the entire night. The feelings were real. What we just shared was real. Jake grabbed her hands. Sophie, we explained that yes, it started as an arrangement, but it became something real. People will understand. Will they? Or will they think I'm pathetic? That you're slumming it with the poor waitress for kicks? Sophie pulled away. Victoria's right. You'll get bored. You'll realize I don't fit in your world, and this will end and I'll have lost my dignity and my family's trust for nothing. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. You're right. I don't. Jake's voice was steady, calm. I can't promise the future. I can't promise this will be easy, but I can promise that right now, in this moment, I want to be with you, and I'm willing to fight for that. The question is, are you? Sophie looked at him, really looked at him. At this man who had spent 5 years changing himself, who had walked into her chaotic life and fit perfectly, who kissed her like she was precious and looked at her like she hung the moon. Before she could answer, headlights flooded the car. A sleek Mercedes pulled up behind them, and Sophie's stomach dropped. Catherine Mitchell stepped out, followed by Victoria. "Oh no," Sophie breathed. "Stay in the car," Jake ordered, already opening his door. "Absolutely not." Sophie followed him out. Catherine Mitchell was even more intimidating up close, tall, elegant, with Jake's same grey-blue eyes but none of his warmth. Victoria stood beside her, triumphant and vicious. "Jacob," Catherine said coolly, "we need to talk. Not here. Not now." Jake positioned himself slightly in front of Sophie. "Oh, I think now is perfect." Victoria's smile was poison. "Shouldn't Sophie's family know the truth? That you hired their precious daughter to play pretend? That this whole relationship is a sham?" The front door opened. Patricia stood in the doorway, confused. "Sophie? Jake? What's going on? Who are these people?" Everything was falling apart. Everything. Jake squeezed Sophie's hand once, then stepped forward. "Mrs. Carter, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen to the whole story before you judge." His voice was strong, clear. "My name is Jacob Mitchell III. I'm the heir to Mitchell Industries. And yes, Sophie initially hired me to pretend to be her boyfriend tonight." Patricia's face crumpled. The rest of the family appeared behind her. Tyler, Aunt Linda, Uncle Robert, all staring in shock. But, Jake continued, his voice rising, "What started as pretend became real. Somewhere between planning our cover story and sitting at your dinner table, I fell in love with your daughter. Genuinely, completely real love. And nothing, Victoria says," he gestured at the smirking woman, "changes that." "You expect us to believe that?" Victoria laughed. "You're paying her to pretend to love you. It's pathetic, Jake." "I'm not paying her anything. I never paid her, and she's not pretending." Jake turned to Sophie, his eyes pleading. Tell them it's real." Every eye turned to Sophie. Her mother looked betrayed. Tyler looked confused. Aunt Linda looked like she might call the police. This was the moment. She could salvage her dignity, protect herself, walk away from this whole mess. Or she could take the leap. Sophie took a shaky breath and stepped up beside Jake, taking his hand. 5 years ago, I rejected Jake at a charity gala. I was cruel and judgmental, and he didn't deserve it. Last week, I was desperate and stupid, and I posted an ad for a fake boyfriend. Jake took it as a chance for a do-over. A second chance at a first impression. She looked at her mother, tears streaming down her face. "But Mom, somewhere along the way, it stopped being fake. The way he looked at me, the way he talked about me, the way he fit into our family, it was all real. I'm in love with him. And I know that's crazy and fast and probably stupid, but it's true." Patricia was crying now, too. The whole family stood frozen. Victoria laughed, sharp and cruel. How touching. How absolutely delusional. "Jake, when you're done with this phase, come find me. I'll be waiting." She turned to leave, but Catherine stopped her with a hand on her arm. "Victoria, go to the car." "But now." Victoria left, shooting venomous looks at Sophie. Catherine turned to Jake, her expression unreadable. "Is she telling the truth about your feelings?" "Yes," Jake said without hesitation. "I love her, Mother. And I know you don't approve, but I don't care. I'm done living my life for Mitchell Industries. I'm done pretending to be someone I'm not. Sophie sees the real me, and I'm not letting her go." Catherine was silent for a long, terrible moment. Then, surprisingly, she turned to Patricia. "Mrs. Carter, I apologize for this disruption to your Christmas, and for my future daughter-in-law's behavior. Former future daughter-in-law, I should say." Everyone gaped. Catherine looked at Jake. "Your father and I have been talking about the Victoria situation, about your unhappiness. We've decided to dissolve the partnership agreement with the Hayes family. Victoria's obsession has become problematic." "You're serious?" Jake looked stunned. "We want you happy, Jacob, even if that means—" Catherine looked at Sophie with clear disdain that she was trying to hide. "Adjusting our expectations. It wasn't warm, it wasn't welcoming, but it was permission. Now, I suggest you fix this." Catherine gestured to the Carter family. "If she's truly who you want, fight for her. Prove it." She left, the Mercedes pulling away into the night. Jake turned back to Patricia and the others. "I know I lied. I know this looks bad. But I swear to you, on everything I have, my feelings for Sophie are real. And if you give me a chance, I'll prove it. Every single day I'll prove it." Patricia looked at Sophie. Really looked at her. "Do you love him, baby?" "I do," Sophie whispered. "I really do." "Then that's all that matters." Patricia opened her arms, and Sophie crashed into them, sobbing. "Your father always said life was too short for safe choices. If this makes you happy, then I'm happy." Tyler stepped forward, looking at Jake seriously. "If you hurt her, billionaire or not, I will destroy you." "Understood." Aunt Linda crossed her arms. "I still have questions." "I'll answer all of them," Jake promised. "Every single one." Uncle Robert just shrugged. "Hell, at least he likes the Spurs." The tension broke. The family laughed, cried, and slowly went back inside, giving Sophie and Jake a moment alone. "That was the most terrifying thing I've ever done," Sophie said, still shaking. "Me too." Jake pulled her close. "Worth it, though. Your mother hates me. She'll come around, or she won't. Either way, I choose you." Sophie looked up at him, this man who had turned her world upside down in the span of a week. "What happens now?" "Now? We figure it out together. One day at a time." Starting with, Jake checked his watch, approximately 30 seconds until midnight. Christmas Day. As if on cue, church bells began to chime in the distance. "Merry Christmas, Sophie Carter." "Merry Christmas, Jake Mitchell." They kissed under the Christmas lights, surrounded by the warmth of family and the promise of something real. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't simple. But it was theirs. And that was more than enough. 3 months later, Sophie was still getting used to her new reality. The reality where she woke up to good morning texts from a billionaire who still somehow wanted to be with her. The reality where she'd had dinner with Catherine Mitchell 4 times, each meeting slightly less excruciating than the last. The reality where her life had become something she'd never imagined it could be. 2 chicken fried steaks, extra gravy, Charlie called from the kitchen. Some things, however, remained exactly the same. Sophie grabbed the plates and delivered them to table 7, the Hendersons, as reliable as sunrise. They still left exactly $3. "How's that boyfriend of yours?" Mrs. Henderson asked, as she did every week now. "He's good, really good. Bring him by sometime. We'd love to meet him properly." Sophie smiled. "I'll do that." The lunch rush was ending when the bell over the door chimed. Sophie looked up automatically and felt her heart do its familiar flip. Jake walked in wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt, his hair slightly messy from the February wind. He'd been at a meeting with his father all morning, something about taking on more responsibility at Mitchell Industries. The fact that he'd driven straight to the Magnolia afterward, still in his business casual clothes, made Sophie's chest warm. "Hey, stranger," she said, as he slid onto a stool at the counter. "Hey yourself. You look beautiful. I'm wearing a stained uniform and I smell like bacon grease. Like I said, beautiful." Jake grinned. "Can I get the usual? Coffee and a slice of pie?" "Coming right up." As Sophie poured his coffee, Marcus burst through the door from the bookstore across the street, waving his phone frantically. "Oh my God, you two, have you seen this?" He shoved his phone at them. On the screen was a tabloid article. "Mitchell heir finds love with small-town waitress, a modern fairy tale." Sophie groaned. "Not another one." "This one's actually sweet, though. Look at the photos." Someone had captured them last week at the San Antonio Botanical Garden. Jake was laughing at something Sophie had said, his arm around her shoulders, looking at her like she was the only person in the world. Sophie was mid-laugh, relaxed and happy, her head tilted back. They looked real, because they were. "We look good," Jake admitted, studying the photo. "We look like a tabloid cliché," Sophie countered, but she was smiling. "Better than Mitchell heir's mysterious $5 romance," Marcus said. "That headline was everywhere last month." After Victoria had tried and failed to sell their story to multiple gossip magazines, Jake's PR team had gotten ahead of it. They'd released a carefully crafted statement about how Jake and Sophie met through an unconventional but genuine connection, and how their relationship had grown into something real. The internet had eaten it up, some calling it romantic, others calling it publicity stunt, most just enjoying the drama. Sophie had learned to ignore it, mostly. "How was the meeting with your dad?" she asked, changing the subject. Jake's expression shifted, excited but nervous. "Actually, I need to talk to you about that. Can you take your break?" Sophie checked with Charlie, who waved her off. She poured 2 coffees and led Jake to their favorite booth in the back. "So," Jake started, fidgeting with his coffee cup. He was nervous. Jake Mitchell was nervous. "My father wants me to take over the West Coast division. It's a huge opportunity. I'd be running my own branch, making real decisions, actually using my degree for something meaningful." "Jake, that's amazing!" Sophie reached across the table to squeeze his hand. "You'll be incredible." "There's a catch." Sophie's stomach dropped. "What kind of catch?" "It's based in California, San Diego specifically. I'd have to move, for at least 2 years, maybe longer." The words hung in the air between them, heavy and terrible. "Oh," Sophie said quietly, "I haven't given him an answer yet, because I needed to talk to you first." Jake's grey-blue eyes were intense, searching her face. "Sophie, these past 3 months with you have been the best of my life. You've made me happier than I thought possible. And the idea of leaving you, of being across the country from you, it makes me physically ill. But it's your dream job. You're my dream." Jake's voice cracked slightly. "The job is just a job." Sophie's eyes filled with tears. "Don't do that. Don't sacrifice your future for me." "Why not? You're my future." "Jake, I'm a waitress at a diner. You're a Mitchell. You have opportunities I can't even imagine. If you pass this up because of me, you'll resent me eventually." "That's not true." "It is true. You'll wake up one day and wonder what you could have accomplished, and I'll be the reason you never found out." Sophie pulled her hand back, wrapping both arms around herself. "You should take it." "Not without you." "What are you saying?" Jake took a deep breath. "Come with me. To San Diego." Sophie stared at him. "Are you insane?" "Probably. But think about it. You could transfer to a restaurant out there, or—" He leaned forward, excited now. "You could go back to school. You told me once you wanted to study hospitality management, but you couldn't afford it. Let me help. Let me pay for school while you figure out what you really want to do." "I can't let you pay for my education, Jake." "Why not? I have the money. You have the dream. It's a simple equation." "Nothing about us is simple." Sophie shook her head. "I can't just uproot my entire life and follow you across the country. My family is here, my job is here, my whole life is here." "I know. And if you say no, I'll stay. I'll turn down the job and stay right here in San Antonio. But Sophie, I'm asking you to take a chance. On us, on possibility, on building a life together that's bigger than San Antonio." "This is crazy. You keep saying that. About us, about everything. But we've been crazy from the start, and it's worked out pretty well so far." Sophie looked around the Magnolia, at the cracked vinyl booths, the flickering lights, the life she'd been living on autopilot since her father died. It was safe, predictable, small. But was it what she wanted? "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too." Jake reached for her hand again. "But I'm more scared of losing you. And I'm more scared of waking up at 60, realizing I played it safe my whole life." He squeezed her fingers gently. "You told me once your biggest fear was ending up alone. Mine is ending up without you." That's not fair, using my own words against me. All's fair in love and war. And Sophie Carter, I am absolutely at war with your self-doubt right now. Despite everything, Sophie laughed. You're ridiculous. You love it. I love you, she corrected. Against all logic and reason, I love you. So come with me. We'll figure everything else out together. Sophie closed her eyes, thinking about her father, about the last thing he'd told her, that he wanted her to be happy, not safe, not settled, happy. And Jake made her happy. Okay, she said, opening her eyes. Okay, yes, I'll come with you to California. Jake's face transformed with joy. Really? Really. On one condition. Anything. I pay my own way through school. You can help with a loan if you want, but I'm paying you back. Every penny. Sophie. Non-negotiable. I'm not a charity case, and I'm not going to be that girlfriend who lives off your money. We do this as partners or we don't do it at all. Jake studied her face, then nodded slowly. Partners. I can work with that. He slid out of the booth and pulled her up, spinning her around. We're moving to California. We're insane. Best kind of insane. Charlie poked his head out from the kitchen. Some of us are trying to work here. Charlie, Sophie called back. I'm giving you my 2 weeks' notice. About damn time. You're too smart to be slinging hash browns forever. Jake kissed her right there in the middle of the magnolia, and Sophie kissed him back, not caring that Marcus was probably taking photos, not caring that the Hendersons were definitely watching, not caring about anything except this moment. This beautiful, terrifying, perfect moment. 2 weeks later, Sophie stood in her nearly empty apartment, looking at the boxes that contained her entire life. Jake was loading them into a moving truck with Tyler's help, both of them arguing good-naturedly about the proper way to stack furniture. Her mother appeared in the doorway, eyes red from crying. "Mom, please don't—" "I'm not crying because I'm sad," Patricia interrupted. "I'm crying because I'm proud. My baby girl is going on an adventure. I'm terrified." "Good. That means you're doing something worth doing." Patricia pulled her into a hug. "Your father would be so proud of you, Sophie. Following your heart, taking chances. That's what he always wanted for you. I wish he could meet Jake. He knows. Somehow, wherever he is, he knows. And he's happy you found someone who loves you the way Jake does." Patricia pulled back, cupping Sophie's face. "Call me every day, visit often, and if he ever hurts you, I'll drive to California and kill him myself." "Noted." Sophie laughed through her tears. The drive to San Diego took 3 days. They stopped at roadside diners, stayed in questionable motels, and sang off-key to terrible radio stations. Jake made terrible jokes. Sophie navigated with militant precision. They laughed until their stomachs hurt, and talked about everything and nothing. It was perfect. Their new apartment was in a beach community, close enough to Jake's office, but far enough to feel separate from work. It was small by Mitchell standards, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that wasn't much bigger than Sophie's old closet. "It's perfect," Sophie breathed, standing on the balcony overlooking the ocean. Jake wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Yeah? Yeah, it feels like us, not too big, not too fancy, just right. Wait until you see the best part." Jake led her back inside and opened the 2nd bedroom door. It was set up as an office. Desk, bookshelves, a comfortable reading chair by the window. On the desk sat a brand new laptop with a note. "For all your future homework assignments. You're going to do amazing things, Sophie Carter. Love, Jake." Sophie burst into tears. "Happy tears, I hope?" Jake asked nervously. "The happiest." She turned and kissed him. "Thank you for believing in me, for pushing me, for being exactly what I needed. Right back at you." 6 months later, Sophie sat in her introduction to restaurant management class at San Diego State University, taking notes furiously. The professor was discussing customer service philosophy, and Sophie had opinions. Lots of opinions. Years of waitressing gave her perspective her classmates didn't have. After class, she met Jake for lunch at a small cafe near campus. He was already there, laptop open, working on something that looked complicated and important. "How's the Empire?" she teased, sliding into the seat across from him. "Growing, annoying, the usual." Jake closed his laptop and gave her his full attention. "How's school?" "I love it. Is that weird? I actually love studying." "Who knew?" "I knew. You're brilliant, Sophie. You were wasted at the Magnolia. Don't disrespect the Magnolia. That place taught me everything I know. Fair point. Jake reached across the table for her hand. So, I have news. Sophie's stomach clenched. Good news or bad news? Good news, great news, actually. You know how I've been working on that affordable housing initiative? Jake had started a project within Mitchell Industries focused on building affordable housing in underserved communities. It was his passion project, the thing that made his eyes light up when he talked about it. What about it? The board approved it. Full funding. 5-year commitment. We're breaking ground on the first development next month. Jake's smile was brilliant. We're actually going to make a difference, Sophie. Real change. Not just profit margins and quarterly reports. Real, meaningful change. Sophie felt tears prick her eyes. Again. She cried at everything these days. Commercials, sunsets, Jake being adorable. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. Couldn't have done it without you. You're the one who kept telling me to fight for what mattered, to use my privilege for something good. Jake squeezed her hand. You make me want to be better. You were already pretty great. You're biased. Completely. They ate lunch, talking about their days, their plans, their dreams. It was ordinary and extraordinary all at once. This life they were building together. As they were leaving, Jake's phone rang. He glanced at it and grimaced. It's my mother. I should take this. Go ahead. Jake answered, and Sophie watched his expression shift from wary to surprised to delighted. Really? You're serious? That's amazing. Yes, she's right here. Okay, I'll tell her. Love you too, Mom. He hung up, looking dazed. What was that about? My mother wants to have dinner with us. Both of us. She said, and I quote, I've decided to stop being stubborn and get to know the woman my son loves. If she's important to you, she should be important to me. Sophie blinked. Catherine Mitchell wants to have dinner with me? Voluntarily? Apparently, my father gave her an ultimatum. Accept you or lose me. She chose acceptance. Jake laughed. It only took 6 months, but we'll take the win. I'm going to need a new outfit. Several new outfits. And possibly a personality transplant. You're perfect exactly as you are. Jake kissed her forehead, that gesture that still made her melt. She'll see what I see eventually. 1 year after moving to San Diego, Sophie graduated with her associate's degree in restaurant management. Her mother, Tyler Marcus, and half the Carter family made the trip out to watch her walk across the stage. Jake was in the front row, cheering louder than anyone. At the celebration dinner afterward, Patricia pulled Sophie aside. Your father would have been so proud. I wish he could be here. Me too. Sophie looked across the restaurant at Jake, who was entertaining Tyler with some story that involved dramatic hand gestures. But I think he'd be happy with how things turned out. I know he would. You took a chance on love, baby. The scary, crazy, illogical kind of love, that's the kind worth having. Even if it started with a $5 ad? Patricia laughed, especially because it started with a $5 ad. Best $5 you never spent. That night, back at their apartment, Sophie and Jake stood on their balcony watching the sunset paint the ocean in shades of orange and pink. I got you something, Jake said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Sophie's heart stopped. Jake, it's not what you think. Not yet, anyway. He opened the box to reveal a delicate necklace with a small charm, the Texas star matching his bracelet. I wanted you to have a reminder of home, of family, of where we started. Sophie's eyes filled with tears as he fastened it around her neck. It's perfect. You're perfect. This life is perfect. And Sophie Carter. Jake turned her to face him, his expression serious now. I know we said we'd take things slow. I know we agreed not to rush, but I need you to know something. What? I'm going to marry you someday, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. When you're ready. When we're ready. Because you're it for me. You're my person, my home, my everything. Sophie couldn't speak around the lump in her throat, so instead, she pulled him down for a kiss that said everything words couldn't. When they finally broke apart, she whispered, I'm going to say yes, you know, when you ask. Whenever that is. Yeah? Yeah, because you're my person too. My impossible, ridiculous, wonderful person. And I can't imagine my life without you. Jake held her close as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in impossible colors. A year ago, Sophie had been a desperate waitress willing to pay $5 for a fake boyfriend. Now, she had a real education, a real future, and real love that defied all logic. Sometimes the best things in life started with the craziest decisions. Sometimes love found you in the most unexpected places, and sometimes, just sometimes, a $5 ad could change everything. The end. 2 years later, on a warm December evening in San Antonio, Sophie Carter stood in her childhood backyard wearing a simple white dress. The same backyard where her father used to grill every Sunday, where she'd played as a child, where 2 years ago Jake had confessed his love to her family. Now that backyard was transformed. White lights strung between trees, chairs arranged in neat rows, flowers everywhere. Patricia Carter was already crying. Marcus was adjusting his bow tie nervously. He was officiating. Tyler stood beside Jake at the makeshift altar, serving as best man. Catherine Mitchell sat in the front row, and while she wasn't exactly warm, she was there. That counted for something. Sophie's heart hammered as the music started. This was real. This was happening. She walked down the aisle alone. Her father wasn't there to give her away, but she felt his presence in every step. In the sunflowers decorating the arbor, in the soft December breeze, in the way Jake looked at her like she was the only person in the world. When she reached him, Jake was crying. "You're supposed to wait until the vows," she whispered. "I couldn't help it. You're so beautiful." Marcus cleared his throat. "Dearly beloved, we're gathered here today to celebrate something that started ridiculously and ended perfectly. Sophie and Jake's journey hasn't been conventional." "Understatement," someone in the crowd muttered. Probably Tyler. "But it's been real, and that's what matters." The ceremony was short, sweet, and perfectly them. When it came time for vows, Jake went first. "Sophie Carter, you told me once that I needed to learn about real work, real life, real love. You were right about everything. You taught me that being rich doesn't make you wealthy. People do that. Love does that. You do that." His voice cracked. "You're the best decision I ever made, even if technically you made it for $5. I promise to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worth way more than that." Sophie laughed through her tears. "Jake Mitchell, 2 years ago I hired you to pretend to love me for one night. Instead, you loved me for real for 730 days and counting. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You pushed me to dream bigger. You made me brave." She squeezed his hands. "I promise to spend the rest of our lives being your partner in every sense of the word. In adventure, in growth, in terrible jokes, and in love. I now pronounce you husband and wife," Marcus declared. "Jake, kiss your $5 bride." "Best money I never made," Jake whispered, and kissed her as the crowd erupted in cheers. As they walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand, Sophie caught sight of a photo on the memorial table. Her father, smiling in his favorite Spurs jersey. She felt Jake squeeze her hand, understanding without words. They were going to be okay. Better than okay. They were going to be extraordinary, and it had all started with $5 and a desperate plan. Sometimes the best love stories began with the craziest plots. This one was worth every penny. The end.